Howdy! How is everybody doing? My name is Laura, and I am the owner of Budding Rose Yoga. And I'm here today to talk about mindfulness. I'm here today to talk to you about how we can bring mindfulness into our day. So much has changed, right? So much has changed recently for every single person on this planet. But our individual experiences are completely unique, and I think it's really important that we recognize that everybody's going through the same thing, but in a completely unique way. And for many of us as well, we've been forced to change so much in terms of how we manage our time. We might be still working, but working from home. We might not be at work. We might not even have a job. We might have kids at home, having got the access to to school, to daycare, and also to access to the support from our family. So much has changed, in terms of how our time is structured and how our time is spent. And so I really wanted to kind of talk about how we can really access mindfulness in a way that is totally accessible. It's totally accessible to people that just don't have the time. Not everybody has the time to take an hour out of their day to do yoga, or to go on a 5-mile walk. And so I really wanted to kind of just share with you some tips, and hopefully give you a sense of hope, that it is completely doable, and having time out for yourself is completely valid as well. I think it's so important that we give ourselves permission. We give ourselves permission to take time out for ourselves. I mean, how many of you, and thank you for joining if you're joining me live, but how many of you, how many of you feel loads of guilt, feel an awful lot of guilt around taking out time for yourself? I think it's probably something that we can all really resonate with, especially if we have young people at home, or if we have elders to support, and people in our family, in our community support. We kind of feel that we don't deserve that time. We don't deserve that time out for ourselves, and we end up just coming all the way down. We come down to the bottom of the list. It's our lowest priority, isn't it, to take care of ourselves? And I totally get that. I totally get how that's the last thing that will happen in my day. I'm just gonna, I need to do all of these things, and then if I get 5 minutes, I'll do something for myself. And more often than not, that doesn't happen. How many of you have said, and I do all the time, how many of you say, right, I'm gonna do that later today, and even if it's just in your mind, it's just a mental process, and you say it to yourself, right, I'm gonna do that later today, and it just never happens. And so, really, I suppose, looking at those areas of blame and shame around self-care and self-love. And I also think it's really important that we talk about it. That's why I'm here to talk to you about it. Sort of breaking that taboo, really. What is it? What does it mean to look after oneself, or to love oneself, or to be mindful? What does that actually mean? And so, I wanted to just kind of go through some things. I think one of the first things that really sort of stands out for me, and from my own experience, that's something that obviously I can only relate to, is my own experience. But our culture almost tells us to kind of put on a brave face, right? To have a stiff upper lip. How many of these things kind of sound true, right, to you? And also, and I don't know necessarily where it comes from, but this, let's rise above it. We need to rise above it, or grow a thicker skin, develop a thicker skin and rise above it. And so we're almost conditioned to think that these feelings, or the way that we feel, or our experiences, kind of need to be pushed down and we need to rise above that feeling or that emotion and just crack on, crack on with what we've got to do, because we got shit to do. We got stuff to do. I'm too busy. I haven't got time. I need to do X, Y, and Z. And that's when, we can come into difficulty, and that's when we can start to feel overwhelmed, and that's when we can start to feel anxious and tired and exhausted. And I went through a massive period, all of last year, and even into the latter stages of the year before that, so end of 2018 into 2019, of just complete exhaustion. I was just so tired all the time. I was just completely fatigued. And I went through an awful lot of processes to kind of try and unravel what that was all about, why I was so exhausted. Like, what was it, what was I doing that was depleting my energy and draining my batteries? And I've kind of come to the conclusion, and I kept on saying it to myself, that, right, I've got so much to do, and I'm working on this, and I'm working really hard to be this, and I'm working really hard to do all of these things. And that was kind of my motto. I'm working really hard. And by saying I'm working really hard, it almost felt like I was validating, or I kind of like felt like I was doing a good job because I was working hard at something, right? But in fact, what I was doing was, I wasn't giving myself permission just to be and to breathe and to recognize that I was working so hard at everything. I was working so hard at many different things all of the time. And coming back to this sense that, when we are able to be mindful and to be in this moment as it sits right now, and it's a hard thing to do, right? It is. I totally get it's hard. And that's why, I want to talk through some tips with you today. But when we're able to kind of access that, or think about, right now, in this very moment, actually everything's okay. Even if there's like 10 things on my to-do list, or I've still got the kids screaming, I've got dinner to make, I've got the washing to do, I've got to go to work, whatever those things are for you. But right now in this moment, if we're able to access that through tips, through different processes, in that moment, we're able to just to take a breath and to take a pause and to almost recognize that, in this space, it's okay. Even if everything isn't okay, it's okay. And that's really what mindfulness is about. It's about recognizing that this is the moment that really matters. And it's really important that when we do that, we're not devaluing what is going on in our life. We're not saying that all of the things that are happening, or we're trying to, make happen, or whatever, trying to process, aren't valid. It isn't that at all. It's saying that no matter what is happening, no matter what is going on for you or going on around you, in this very moment, you're okay, and that you've got a handle on it, even if it doesn't feel like you do. And I hope over the course of this little video, it will kind of unravel a little bit, and you'll be able to kind of figure out, that it's okay. It's totally okay, and it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to feel like everything is on top of you. It's okay to feel like you're failing at everything. Because when we're giving ourselves permission to access this present moment as we are right now in today, we kind of go, okay, right now I'm all right. I can feel myself, I can see myself. Just take a pause and recognize that actually it's manageable, and that's what we're going to look at. And I think it kind of perpetuates this idea, doesn't it, that we kind of get lost in our story. We kind of get lost in the whole drama of like, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And then that story becomes the trailer, right? And then the trailer is like the prelude to the movie. And before we've realized it, the movie is like, we're all working toward this like big finale, this big showdown. And we got completely lost in that. We got completely caught up in that whole story of where we think we should be going, and what we should be doing, and what we shouldn't say, and what we should have said. And we're rehearsing that. We're in that space. We're rehearsing that, and we are the main character, right? And we're completely entrenched and enthralled in that rehearsal. And so we need to kind of remind ourselves to access right here. And that's going to still be there, right? But accessing this right here moment is going to give us a little bit of space and time just to take a breath and get a hold of everything, because that's when we can start to feel really overwhelmed. And mindfulness essentially is being aware, right? It's just being awake to the moment right now. So a couple of experiences I want to share, and I don't know if you guys resonate with any of them. So if you're feeling like, a complete sense of overwhelm, and you're feeling that, I just can't quite grasp those mindfulness moments. How can I do it? So I'm going to give you some examples. Me, myself, I am the multitasking queen. I'm like the queen of, right, I'm going to do 5 things at the same time. And when I do 5 things at the same time, I feel like a superhero. Yeah, I've got this. I'm doing all these things. I'm really managing my time. I like to make lists. So I've got a list of things to do. And then I'll find myself doing a task or whatever and doing many things at the same time. So for example, and I've caught myself doing it, and that's why I want to share these with you, and hopefully they're the little nuggets for you to kind of use as well. I've caught myself, making some toast, for example, totally into crumpets at the moment, making some crumpets, toasting crumpets, and at the same time I've got my phone in my hand and I'm looking at my emails. So I'm doing the toast, I'm doing my emails, and I'm feeling, right? Yeah. You can resonate with that. And so, but I feel I feel really warranted. I feel like I'm being really effective with my time because I'm doing 2 things at the same time. And then I'll see an email and be like, okay, right, I really need to, that's an important thing. I need to get back to them. And so I'll make a little note in my mind, and there's another email, and then a notification might come through. And so if your business is on your phone, and we're all on our phones nowadays, I mean, look, now we're connecting through phone, and it's an amazing thing. Don't get me wrong. Access to this information, to each other, is an amazing thing. But knowing, I suppose, when is the right time to use those tools. And so, yeah, another example, I might be going upstairs to put the heating on, and I'll take my phone just to check, just to check messages. Burnt crumpets. I know, right? Shit, got the crumpets. But yeah, totally right. So doing something else, and then at the same time, for me personally, checking notifications, and then another important message, an inquiry. Okay, right, need to get back to them. But do you know what happens? What's going to happen? I'm just going to completely forget. I might remember to put the heating on, and I might certainly remember to eat my crumpet that I toasted. But more often than not, I'm going to forget to get back to that person. I'm going to. It's not necessarily that I forget, but those tasks now are building up, right? They're stacking up in my mental consciousness. And so eating the crumpet, and I'm like, okay, I've got to reply to so-and-so. I've got to do this. I need to write that down. I need to do da-da-da-da-da. And then all that is doing is making me feel more stressed. It's giving me more things to do. So rather than being efficient with my time by thinking I'm multitasking, I'm actually being more inefficient with my time and creating more stress in my life, And this was a real aha moment for me. And what I've learned to do is try and be really specific with how I spend my time. And I'm still working on it. I haven't nailed it. And if anybody has any suggestions or any advice on this, please share, and sharing is caring, right? That's what we're here for. And I'm still working on this, but trying to be really specific with my time, and making a point of saying, right, between this time, I'm going to do my emails. Between this time, I'm going to do my admin. And if you're working from home, like me, it's really hard to create those boundaries and that, time division, because everything just blurs into one, right? You've got the distractions at home, you've got children, you've got your pets, you've got your partner, you've got your family, you've got people knocking on the door, you've got your phone ringing. There isn't a boundary, and that's why it's so important that we try and create boundaries, isn't it? And try and create some avenues and processes to put in place to try and make it just feel a little bit less stressed. So if anything like me, you're trying to work from home, but really struggling with it. Try that and explore that method of saying, right, okay, between this and this time, and set your timer on your phone if that helps you, and say, right, between I don't know, like 10 and 11:30, this is when I'm going to do my work stuff. I'm going to turn my phone off, on silent, but I'm going to put a timer on and make sure that I stick to that time frame, and then not check my emails or not check my Facebook notifications during that time. And then another time later in your day, so right, this is the time that I'm going to do such and such. I'm going to check my Facebook or whatever. And I know that sounds a little bit like, for me at first, I was like, oh, that just sounds so boring. That just sounds like, oh, I don't want to live my life so, so set by rules, right? But it helps, it really works to create sort of structure in the brain. Otherwise, not only have we got like loads of things open on our phone, but we've got loads of tabs open in the mind at the same time. I've got to go do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then it never happens, more than likely, the stuff that you think that you're going to do in the day just doesn't actually happen in that order, right? Because we're trying to maintain all of this stuff up here. So try and focus on one thing at one time. And these things aren't like groundbreaking. You're going to have heard these suggestions before, but sometimes all we need is to kind of been told, right? Or sometimes we need is to hear another person's experience. If you're like, oh, you know what, okay, I do that, I'm going to try it this way, and just keep trying different ways, and be realistic. Like, how many of you, like, I don't know, I'm a list writer, write a list down, but as I do a list each day, the same things are on my list. Like, oh, okay, that's been on my list for about 3 weeks now. I keep rolling it over to the next day, and to the next day, and to the next day. Like, be realistic. Is that something that you really think is valid? How important is that thing to you? Is it really important that you put that on your list? Because all that is doing is compounding your stresses. Okay, another thing to do. But is it really going to happen? Is it more likely to happen in, 2 weeks, 2 months' time? So be realistic. Another thing I want to share is like morning routine. And I know this can be a tough one if you're, you're at home and you've got kids and you're trying to like manage all of that stuff, like being at home and everything that entails. And then trying to like grab 5 minutes for yourself is just near enough impossible. And when somebody says to me, oh, Laura, just get up earlier, I'm like, yeah, that's just never going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I love my sleep too much. So if you're like me and you're like, no, I've tried that. I've tried getting up earlier, and all that's going to do is create more stress because then I feel like I failed. I didn't get up earlier. Don't bother. Don't do it. If you've tried it and you know that doesn't work for you, just don't do it, for sure. But maybe the first 5 minutes, like if your alarm goes off, hey, if you're joining, when your alarm goes off, and what I do now is I put my phone on airplane mode when I go to bed. Airplane mode. It's also better for us when, all that stuff is turned off overnight. But also when our alarm goes off in the morning, if you're woken up by alarm on your phone, you're not bombarded then with notifications and stuff to do, because all that is telling you is that, okay, you need to do this. And what we want to try and do is create a routine. And all I mean by routine is just, is even just saying with yourself, right, what kind of day do I want to have today? How do I want to feel today? What is my priority? How do I want this day to work out? And that's it, and it doesn't mean that every single day that's going to happen. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be stuff that comes into your day that, is hard to manage, right? Because that's life. But try and start off your day, no phone, right? No notifications. Put your phone on silent and on airplane mode. And unless, of course, you need to, but more often than not, for that first 5 minutes, try it. And then when you wake up, even if you know that your kids that they're going to need you, right? Even if it's just a moment or like 30 seconds, say, okay, what kind of day do I want to have today? How do I want to feel? What is my priority today? And I don't mean like what's your priority, what you need to do. I don't mean it like that, but like, What's your priority? I want to feel good. I want to feel valued. I want to feel happy. You know, something as simple that I just want to feel happy today. I want to feel chilled out today. I don't want any drama. You know, don't be afraid to set that little statement for yourself, and then come back to it. You know, keep reminding yourself, keep showing up to that. You know, showing up to yourself is so important, especially when you're responsible for so many different things. And if you don't have kids at home, you know, maybe you're a real activist for your community. You know, maybe you're out there every day supporting your neighbors and your community. You know, making sure that you take that little time out, and by setting an intention is a really wonderful way just to bring you back, you know, to bring you back to that, okay, where was I at the beginning of this day, and how have I got here? You know, how have I got so derailed? And that's not to ensue blame, that's not to give yourself a hard time, but just say, okay, maybe I just need to come back on track, you know. How do I want to feel? And again, it's coming back, isn't it, to that feeling like, you know, you deserve it. You actually deserve to feel good. It's okay. You deserve to feel loved. That's okay. And all of these things, you know, they take time, right? They take time and they take practice. But I believe in it. I believe in you, you know. And another thing is to, you know, maybe use a journal. If you like to write stuff down, use a journal. It's really, can be really, really powerful. Again, when we try and keep everything up here, and it's a bit like Google, isn't it? Like the minute, I don't know. And I've tried to do it. I've tried to do gratitude journaling in my mind. You know, like I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered to turn the light on, or if you've got somebody else in the house and you don't want to disturb them with the light on, you know, like before you go to bed, for example. So I'm just going to do it in my mind. And then you start thinking about what you're grateful for that day, like reflecting on your day and thinking about what you're grateful for. Before you realize it, you know, it's a bit like Google. You can go onto something, can't you? You're looking for something, and then before you realize it, like 20 minutes later, you're like, you've added like 3 items to a shopping basket in Amazon. You're like, how have I got here? What was I even doing? You know, you've completely lost track as to where you were going. And that can be the same in the mind, you know. So write it down. Try and write it down. You know, write it down before you go to bed, or maybe you prefer it in the morning, or I don't know, in your lunch hour or something. Just get a book out, you know, get a nice journal and just write down what you're grateful for, what's happened in your day that you're thankful for. And it can be really simple, really, really simple things. I'm grateful it didn't rain today. You know, I'm grateful that I got out and I saw my neighbor. I'm really grateful. Whatever, you know, whatever it is, it can be tiny, it can be a really small thing. But showing up to yourself in this way and reflecting on your day in this way and reflecting on yourself in this way can be incredibly powerful. It can be incredibly inspiring as well. And it's a really effective way to kind of look back and to reflect, especially if you start off with your intention, you know, and ask yourself, how did I get on? And again, don't blame, you know, we're not criticizing, but how did I get so derailed? What happened? What could I have done differently? What could I have changed? How could I have reacted differently? And that kind of brings us really onto the next suggestion, really, which is about taking a pause. And then one of the easiest ways, and it's completely free, to access that pause, that moment, that pause between reaction, you know, stimulus and response, is the breath. You know, is breathing, being aware of our breath. And it can be a scary thing sometimes, you know. And if you guys want more guidance on breathing awareness, you know, I'm more than happy to share. I'm more than happy to maybe do another live on breathing exercises. But even just something is just sitting. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, right, and you're halfway through your day and everything is just going crazy or whatever, you know, and you're like, man, you know, this isn't the day I was meant to be having, and you're just feeling completely, you know, ridden with anxious and with anxiety, just take a pause, right? Just take a pause. I like to bring my hands on me. I like to place my hands on maybe on my chest or even a hand on the belly. And you can close your eyes and just be aware of your inhale and your exhale. And that can be it, right? That gateway, that small little entry point into your experience. Pause. And that can be it. That can be all it takes, just to reset your focus, just to reset your where you've gone. If you drop down into a rabbit hole somewhere, just coming back to that breath, just for that one moment, if you can. If you can do it longer, do it longer. But taking a pause is when we're able to make that slight change. Okay, so right, what am I feeling? And the other thing I want to share with you is giving whatever you're feeling complete recognition. I think going back to what I was saying at the very beginning about I'm if it's a cultural thing or a conditioning thing, that we're taught, aren't we? We're expected to rise above it. We're taught to grow a thick skin and just come on, you can push through this, right? You've heard all these types of expressions, and it's almost like we're suggesting that what we're feeling is invalid and we need to push it down and ignore it. So rather than doing that, rather than ignoring what you're experiencing, so maybe you're stressed, maybe because you've got like a heap of stuff to do and you're working from home. Maybe you just had an altercation with your with your partner, or maybe you've fallen out with your friend, or maybe just this whole environment, this whole situation is just making you feel anxious, all of this change, or maybe even the idea of reintegrating back into society when lockdown is over. Even that, right, can cause us to feel anxiety. So I don't want you to necessarily try and figure out that end thing. So whatever the problem is, I don't want you necessarily to bring your focus onto that or to try and figure that out. What I want you to try and do is just sitting with your experience of how you're feeling. So what is it? What is the emotion? What is your emotion when you're feeling anxiety, and whereabouts do you feel it? So for me, and usually for all of us, and if your experience is different, that's completely okay. It doesn't mean it's wrong. But more often than not, we feel it here. We feel it in the belly, we feel it in the heart, and we feel it around the throat. This tightening, for me, it's like a gripping, like a clamping around the heart, around the chest. And so rather than just trying to swallow that feeling and trying to kind of hide that feeling and rise above it, I've got too much to do, I need to crack on with this, right? Instead, I want you to, if you can, just take a pause, maybe the hands on you, and just say, right, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What is this emotion trying to ask of me? What kind of attention is it trying to get from you? Okay, that's what I want you to try and ask yourself. So rather than pushing it down, pushing it away, no, I haven't got time to feel this. I don't want to feel fear. I don't want to feel angry. And also we kind of associate those emotions, don't we, with like they're dirty emotions, that we shouldn't be feeling them, that we're meant to be always joyful and happy and caring and loving all the time. But these emotions have a place, and there's nothing wrong with them. And that's why it's important that we try and understand, okay, what is this emotion trying to ask of me? So for me, for example, even before coming onto life, okay, so I'm feeling a little bit of tightness here. And just saying, okay, what is this emotion trying to ask of me? What is this feeling? What does this feel like? I can feel like a tightening, a gripping, nervousness, excitement. And what is it asking of me? What is it telling me? It's telling me that I care. It's telling me that this is really important to me. And I'm nervous because it means an awful lot to me. Okay. And then when I kind of had that really, and it can be just that really small exchange, that really small conversation, like, okay, what is this emotion trying to ask from me? It kind of just makes it feels okay. It's still there, right? But it feels like it's been understood, right? We're trying to understand ourselves, aren't we? And understanding an emotion, rather than trying and pushing it down. We'll give it room to move. And when we give it that room to move and to express itself, that's what it's trying to do. It's just trying to express something to you. It's trying to tell you, hey, I'm scared, hey, listen to me. It's just trying to it's putting its hand up and saying, listen to me. I'm really nervous about this. Or I'm really overwhelmed right now. I just need you to recognize. And I promise you that with time and with practice of trying that, especially if that's a new concept, it will really shift. It will really shift, and it will loosen, right? That feeling will still be there, but the grip it will have over you will just begin to loosen, because it's been heard, right? Because you've listened to it, you've listened to yourself. And that's really how we can use mindfulness in our everyday. So it doesn't mean that we have to, take an hour of our day and do yoga. Not everybody has that luxury. Not everybody has that time and that space. Not everybody has the money to do it, And mindfulness, as I said, it's free, but we just need to know how to do it, right? And we just need to be reminded that it's okay. It's okay not to feel okay all the time. And it's okay to feel these emotions. It's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to feel anxious. But I think it's really important that we give those feelings the recognition that they're trying to ask us for. And basically, that's their purpose. Rather than thinking they're dirty and, okay, I'm just going to try and get rid of that. I'm going to push it down a little bit further. It just compounds it. So when we give it a little bit more room to breathe, it just begins to move through us a little bit more. And then each time we feel it, and you go, okay, right, what does this need? What it needs is a little recognition. Okay, I'm feeling scared. Why am I feeling scared? I'm feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? And then when we begin to sort of ask those questions, we just begin to sort of recognize what we need, and then try and instill that back into your day. What do you need today? So when you set your intention in the morning, even alarm goes off, wake up. Okay, what do I need today? Okay, I need to just be a little bit kinder to myself. I need to be a little bit gentler to myself. I need to be a little bit more tender to myself, and try and reintegrate those intentions, so they're coming back to those more dominant feelings. If you're feeling a certain way every time or every day, try and sort of integrate your intentions with them, and just see if it helps. And it isn't a quick fix. It takes time, right? It does. It takes time. But that leads us on to the next thing, which is about talking, and it's about recognizing that. And I put a post up yesterday about it. I think it's so important that, especially when we're feeling a certain way and it's overwhelming, more often than not, there's going to be somebody in your community, in your friend circle, in your family circle, that has been through the same thing, that is thinking the same thing, that is feeling the same way. So reaching out and saying, listen, hey, I'm struggling, or I really need. I could just really, I could just do with a chat. I could do with a meet up, social distance, and just recognizing that we aren't alone on this. We're not isolated. We are, in fact, very much experiencing, as I said at the beginning, even though our individual experiences are very different and valid and unique, we are all probably feeling very similar things, very similar emotions. So reach out to your community, reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit like this today, or I just can't get past this feeling, or, and I assure you, there's going to be somebody out there that has been through, a similar experience and has felt, a really similar thing. And then it kind of almost just makes us feel, okay, yeah, I'm not alone, and I'm not odd for feeling this way. I'm not strange for feeling this way. So yeah, I hope they've been kind of helpful. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you have any questions, let me know. Put them in the comments, or you can DM me, you can send me a message, and I'll keep sharing. My intention really is to keep showing up for you, and even every week I can jump on live and just share some support. And I really, because I believe in it, and I believe in you. I've been there, I'm still there, and still going through stuff, and we all are, aren't we? It's a journey, it's an unfolding, and I think once we realize that we are stronger together, it just makes everything a little bit easier. But before I disappear, I'm going to keep looking out on my feed. I need to put some stuff in place before I can actually announce it properly, but I'm going to be doing a 4-day free mindfulness challenge, which is going to be happening probably toward the end of this month. And what I'll ask you guys to do is to, you can do it now if you want, but I'm going to put processes in place so that you can jump onto my website and sign up for it that way. It's not there yet, so if you're like, oh my God, this sounds amazing, what is it? Just send me a message, send me your email. Otherwise, just keep a track on my posts, and I'll update you when I do it. But it's going to be a 4-day free mindfulness challenge, and I'll be offering you sort of daily inspiration and daily techniques and daily tools of how you can, bring more mindfulness into your day. There's going to be workbooks. There's going to be lots and lots of free stuff for you guys to use. So toward the end of June. So keep your eyes peeled. But if you have any questions, just let me know. And I hope it's been helpful. Like I said, drop me a message, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your experiences and your thoughts, and if it has helped, share with me. But for now, I bid you farewell. I send you lots of love, and thank you so much, everybody that's joined. Thank you. It's been really, really wonderful to share and to see your little faces and emojis. I love it. Let's see. So many of you. Thank you so much. But yeah, lots of love, and I'll see you guys really, really soon. Thank you guys.